Welcome to Junkyard Theory, ladies and gentlemen. And unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of months, chances are you've come across this new animation series on Netflix called Blue Eye Samurai. And personally, this is the first animation series that I binged in a single day. It was that amazing. Yes, definitely go check it out. And lucky for all of us, it's been picked up for season two. And I got the pink haired girl behind Blue Eye Samurai, Jane Wu, supervising director and producer. Jane, thank you so much for joining. It is truly a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you, Akash. I'm very, very happy to be here and very happy to talk about all things Blue Eye Samurai.
And you have quite the portfolio from before as well. I want to dive into all of that and Blue Eye Samurai. But before that, tell me, we know Mizu's origin story. What's yours?
Uh, my origin story is not as violent as hers, but it was just as messy in that I was born in Taiwan and I immigrated to the States at about 8.5, 9, and I did not speak any English. So for the first 3 years, I felt like Mizu. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. It was hard to make friends. So that you always carry that with you. And so I am formally trained as a fashion and costume designer. So I had no intention on going into films. But in high school, I did collect comic books, and my comic book collection grew way, too much. And so the only thing you reasonably can do is to open up a comic book store. And so I owned a comic book store for 3 years and I was in the comic world. But back then, there weren't a lot of women in that industry. So it was very hard for me to do any work or get any work. Even if I could draw, it was hard. But I knew that a lot of my friends who were comic book artists were getting into animation. So by then, I've been teaching quite a bit. And I just thought, well, let me try animation because I really didn't like the fashion business, and I needed to find something else to do. Teaching is great. I always will be teaching, but teaching at such a young age, I didn't have like a life experience to guide students through anything that they needed. But I had the skill set to draw, to teach.
How
So
old were you?
when I was teaching, or I
Yeah, when
taught
you
I taught by the time I was 23, and I left when I was about 28. I taught for, yeah, quite a bit at Otis Parsons, or actually it was called Otis at that time. And I taught in the fashion design course. So I got into animation, I think totally by accident because the portfolio I sent in was really bad. I wouldn't have hired myself. Um, it was bad because it showed that I had no understanding of the animation business. Uh, it just showed that I can draw, but it didn't show that I knew anything else, right? So I got a call, I think 9 months after I put in my portfolio, and I had even forgotten that I put in my portfolio. So I thought, sure, why not? I'll try it. And they said they wanted to give me a position called cleanup, which I didn't even know what that position was. I thought they wanted me to clean up bathrooms or something. So I was so clueless. Miraculously, they hired me, and what I was supposed to do was take a storyboard artist's drawing because they would draw it really fast and rough, and I would have to clean it up and put it on model and make it look nice. So in this day and age, we call it a revisionist. So I did that for I think about a year. Then I got put into character designing because I could design costumes and I knew how to draw humans. Um, so I got put in as an assistant character designer. I hated it because it's just not. I don't like drawing the same thing over and over again. And I also don't draw, I draw very, very fast. And in order to make those finished drawing, you have to draw very slow. So I think the temperament of what that position was not fun for me. So the next year, my executive wanted to put me as a lead character designer, and I said no. I wanted to storyboard because from my comic book days, I really enjoyed storytelling. And he said, "Have you ever storyboarded?" And I said, "No, how hard can it be?" It was very hard. And I struggled quite a bit. And I just remember telling myself, like, oh my God, I'm too old for this. I'm relearning a whole nother industry and I didn't go to school for, you know. So I talked to some friends that were my seniors in this industry and I said, what do I need to do? And they recommended some books, they recommended some exercises, and I basically gave myself that summer to train. And if I couldn't figure it out, I was going to go back to fashion because it was way too hard. Luckily, that summer while I was training, something clicked, you know, and something, it was a very aha moment. I couldn't even tell you specifically what it was, but it's just, you know, it's like training when you're training martial arts, when you're training anything, you do it long enough that something does click. Or if something doesn't click, then you're not meant to do that. So from there on out, I storyboarded for a year and got elevated to directing and then quickly started supervising directing. So the two shows that I supervised at Sony was the Jackie Chan Adventures and Men in Black third season. And from there, I went to Disney and stayed at Disney for quite a bit until Joss Whedon, the director of Avengers, called and say, "Hey, I heard, you know, you can do action." And I left Disney very, very fast. But look, when I left Disney to go to Marvel, nobody knew Marvel was going to be so big because I got onto Marvel very, very early on. But I also ended up staying at Marvel for many years. And then that was basically the start of my live action career for the next 11 years until I got called back to Blue Eye Samurai. Long origin
Congrats.
story. It's not a straight path.
I don't think it ever really is, right? And if it was pretty linear, it's gonna be quite boring. It's the little detours on the side that kind of make it interesting.
Yeah, and I also like to think that the industry chose me. I didn't choose
Mm.
it, you know?
Yeah, but that's, I mean, it's quite fascinating, and I want to talk a little bit about something you lightly touched on, about the fact that you stay in something long enough, you realize, that whether it's for you or not. And you mentioned martial arts as well, and you are a practitioner of.
Well, yes, I'm too old now. I'm 55, so my body doesn't move like the way it used to. So I
You
really
don't
should
look
say,
55.
thank you. I really should say I retired. But yes, I did practice martial arts for a long time. And
What
it's the same thing.
specifically did you practice?
I studied wushu. So that's
Wushu.
traditional Chinese martial arts. And I always describe it like, you know, it's the stuff that you see in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And it it's anything you want to do well, you have to spend time at it. It doesn't come naturally. If it does come naturally, you probably are gifted, but that's like what, 1% of us, right? Those of us have to try very hard to get good at what we want to do. But mainly, you have to like what you're doing to spend that much time doing it. So I think a lot of people uh, don't know what they like, right?
And do you have any tips on how you discover that? Is it just a process of uh, trying as many different things as you can, see
Yes,
what clicks.
yes. A lot of times I tell students to even try the positions they don't think about because they might like that. Or just as important, you have to know what you don't like. You know, it's like food. You know what you like and what you don't like, right? Because you look at something, you go, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me try that." And you go, "Whoa, I don't like this." So it's kind of like food, and your career should be, if you don't know what you are passionate about and what you like, then just try everything and know that you can change your mind. It's okay. That's another part of the problem, I think, with younger kids is they think they need to have all the answers. They don't, you know, so I'm giving you permission to not have all the answers. Um, you want to be able to try certain things and say, okay, this is not for me, put it down and try something else. And find it. There's also no age in which you have to have the answer, right? I
Yeah,
think the thing that matters the most is you have to love what you're doing.
1,000%. Because you could probably go, doing something you don't like for like every single day for the rest of your life, 75 times, and you call it a life. But is it really? Have you truly lived?
Yeah, yeah. And can you imagine what a wonderful world we would be living in if everybody just liked what they do? The
Yeah,
people would be
it's
happier.
so much more joyful. And I think that
Yeah.
really translates across through the work that you've done, especially on
Thank
Blue Eye
you.
Samurai. And this is something you guys have been working on since the pandemic, right?
Yes,
What
so
was
this is how long an animated series takes to begin with, but we were greenlit and then the world shut down 2 weeks afterwards, and so we had to figure out how to get this production going 100% remotely. Yeah. And but, you know, the good and bad is, the bad is everything takes about 30% longer to do because it's hard to communicate like this, especially when you're trying to point at a drawing. You go, no, no, to the left, no, to that corner, no, to, you know what, never mind, just send it to me. And then that's hard. But it gave us an ability to work with everybody from all over the world because you don't have to be in a physical studio anymore, so the talent pool widened.
Yeah, I guess it was, you know, like you look back on it now, it's like, oh, you had 2019 and now it's 2023. What happened? But
Yeah.
at the same time, there was so many things that kind of changed, and I guess the whole industry figured out that there were new ways of doing things. Essentially, the pandemic was a problem, and we started problem solving.
But
And they might
that's
not
that's
have
what
like,
Yeah, that's what we humans are good at, right? But if you look at in terms of Blue Eye Samurai being so groundbreaking, our technology was not groundbreaking. The technology that we used to animate was 3D Studio Max. That's an outdated 20-year-old game engine. Yeah, I'm gonna let you sit on that for a second, okay? The thing that was groundbreaking and the thing that was new was just our perspective on how we can make this. That's it. And so coming from the live action world, I just decided to infuse Blue Eye Samurai with a lot of live action philosophy because this is supposed to be an adult show, right? So there's a lot of drama in this. And in order to have drama, you need to ground the visuals, you need to ground the performance. Otherwise, it won't feel dramatic. Your lighting needs to be a little bit more dramatic and naturalistic. Same thing with your color palette. So we grounded everything to serve the script that was written by Michael Green and Amber Noizumi, our showrunners, so that it matched the intensity and the dramatic aspect of the story. That's the thing that was new.
that's amazing because it goes to show the fact that it's not really the tool that you use, how you use it.
Never the tool. No.
Yeah.
It's always the person that's wielding the tool. So, because I'm a martial artist, I always like to say, like, it's not the sword, it's the swordsman, correct?
Very correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We had, I was talking to Micah Gunnell, who
Mm,
was storyboarding
yes.
Blue Eye Samurai as well. I was asking him about uh, the fight scenes. Like, how did you guys storyboard that? And then he told me that you guys actually got stunt people to choreograph it, shoot it, and then you use that as reference, which makes
Yes.
sense as to why how visceral and dynamic it is, and it's quite how do you call it? It's not something that you see in animation. I mean, it has the whole suspend reality, but at the same time, there's something that feels like it's really grounded. Like this is something somebody could do.
So that's what we do in live action all the time. In those big Marvel movies, that's what we do. Um, we hire stunt coordinators and stunt choreographers, and they would come up with a stunt fight and stuff like that, and we would shoot it. And then the director would look at it and say, okay, well, I want to change this, I want to change that. And, they would look at, work on it collaboratively. So I just brought that system into into our animation. And again, that's the perspective that's new. And because we do need that groundedness for this, that's what we pulled in. And so we would talk to our stunt choreographer, Sunny Noah, uh, or Sunny Sun. We would talk to him and convey our idea of what the characters are going through emotionally and how we get through action to tell the story. Um, for two reasons. One is what I mentioned already, is to ground the action. The other one is that because I'm a martial artist, I don't ever want to see fake things that are made up. Because like how many people, how many storyboarders, like you know, Micah is really good, but he's not a martial artist, right? So for me to put that responsibility on him, and then he has to go research and he has to go figure it out, and then the amount of drawings that you have to do to convey the motion, I just want Micah to do what he's good at, and then I'll get somebody else to get what they're good at, and then I'll put it together. And that's how you keep, the entire quality of the show at top notch.
In that sense, did the pandemic kind of help you bring the quality up to what it ended up being? Because I mean, 2020 to
I
2022, you guys had 3 years. In I'm pretty sure you guys had quite a time period where you were figuring things out. How are we gonna solve it? Did you guys already have a deadline that you're gonna have
we
released?
had a huge deadline.
Okay.
A show like this schedule was way too fast, and we did have a lot of long hours. But also a show like this has never been done before, so nobody really knew how much time to give. So we tried our best to push to deliver the show as soon as we could. Animated shows always take this long. Um, I don't know if anybody knew, but Arcane took about 9, 10 years. Yes, yes.
Uh, I really hope season 2 doesn't take that long.
No, season 2 will not take this long. But we did have to try to figure things out along the way, and that was difficult. But I had a clear vision for what I wanted to do on this show, so we didn't change our mind at all. I think that helps. Every step of the way, I was able to guide my team to what you see now on the screen, step by step. And yeah, that takes a long time.
Yeah. So when you hopped on board the project, were the screenplays finalized and the story is being told through quite a few episodes, and in the sense, if something changes at the beginning, there's chances that it'll snowball and affect the later episodes. So
Well,
how do you?
to our showrunner's credit, like me, they had an idea of where they wanted the show to go. Although when I came aboard, there were only three scripts, but they knew how the story was going to unravel. So as we were working, they were completing the scripts and turning it into us as they go. So, again, this was, as I mentioned before, this was such a wonderful alchemy of everybody knowing exactly what this was going to be and everybody working at the most high quality performance. And that's how you're able to get a show like we have, because it's not one person, it's not just me, it's the whole team, it's everybody
Yeah.
that worked on it.
Your role as a supervising director, talk to me a little bit about that, because you did direct a couple of episodes as well, but you had other people directing several others. So what was your
So
tasks specifically?
my job really is to look after the production as a whole and also to come up with the visual language of it, and also then to hire the crew and guide the crew. If you think of me as more like a mom, that's what a supervising director does in the show, a mom or a dad if you're a guy. Um, but I'm basically the person that is responsible for the whole show. So I hired all the directors and then I directed the first one because I wanted to show everybody what the tone and the pacing was going to be because I had it in my head. So I went and directed the first one and then also I directed the last one. That's usually very typical of a supervising director's job to direct the first and the last. Um,
Gotcha. I'm asking because
so,
animation has always been sort of a blind spot for me. I come
ah,
from
okay.
a live action
Oh,
background as
okay.
well, so
Okay.
this is the first time I'm actually actively searching for
Oh,
information behind the scenes.
oh,
So it's really
good.
interesting
Well, I'm happy that we converted you.
to. You did, really
Yeah.
did.
So in a big show like say Game of Thrones, there's also a supervising director. There's a main director that keeps all the other episodes sort of in show style, right? So that's mainly my job is to make sure that everything is cohesive. Um, we had everything on show style, right?
Gotcha. You worked on quite a few movies before you came to Blue Eye Samurai, and something that caught my eye was the Godzilla animated series from 1990,
Oh, you're going way back. Yes. Yeah, that's
way
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 back.
back. This I remember as a kid. I watched the first movie and I was really waiting for the sequel, but it got scrapped and the animation show was what got made instead. And I wasn't complaining because I got to see a new monster every week.
Right. So I was really new when I did Godzilla and I learned a lot on Godzilla. And I would say I actually found my voice in terms of storyboarding on Godzilla. Um, TV animation, the schedule is insane. It's insanely fast, and you don't rarely get to think about, oh, did I do that right? Let me do it again. You don't have time. So it was a very good training ground for me to do it, let go, do it again, let go, do it again, let go, because it's the letting go part and then seeing it up on the screen going, oh yeah, that worked or that didn't work. So the repetitiveness of the training, working on shows like that really helped develop muscles.
Talk to me a little.
Did you see Godzilla minus one?
No, I haven't. It's not released here yet.
Oh my
Uh,
God, if you love Godzilla, that is such a great movie. You have to see that.
yeah, I really hope they bring it down here.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend, we've been like, why is it not coming down here? We are both monster fans, and we're dying to see it. So
Oh, so
hopefully
good.
soon. Yeah, talk to me a little bit about the letting go of things because working in film, no matter how much you do, there's a certain point beyond which you can't really be too attached to the project. You gotta put it out there,
Absolutely.
and it's a very vulnerable place as well because
Yes.
it's kind of like your baby. You're letting it out into
Yes.
the world. You're gonna get critiqued. Talk to me bit about that.
Um, the letting go part. So let me speak in terms of saying doing Blue Eye Samurai, right? I told myself the only person I had to please was myself. If I liked it and if I'm truly proud of it, that should be enough. And even if Akash from Sri Lanka didn't like it, it's okay. I liked it, right? And that's living in a space of self-valuing and self-worth and knowing that you're 100% trying your best, right? Knowing all that, you should be able to let go. It's only when none of those things are in none of those things that I spoke about is checked off, then it's hard to let go because if you're still worried about, oh, I don't know how I feel about it, then that's when you don't know how to let it go. Or when you go, oh, I didn't work hard enough on it, that's when it's hard to let go. But honestly, when you've done all those things, you should be able to let it go, right?
So essentially, give it everything you got,
A
and
hundred
then
and
you,
ten percent, not even 100%, 110%. And that's kind of how I live my life anyways. Even in a relationship, you do 110%, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can step away from it because you gave 110%. There's nothing else. So then the issue is not you not trying, right?
yeah. I really like how philosophical this is getting because it's you know I
But
see
that's
the philosophy.
filmmaking, right? That's telling stories.
It is. It is. Like Bruce Lee said it right. Said it best, right? Like whatever you do, there's a philosophy behind it. And
Hmm.
I saw quite a lot of philosophical elements in Blue Eye
Good,
Samurai.
good.
What really not surprised me, it was it was very heartwarming to see how audiences worldwide were embracing this show. And just a few, I think it was like a few months back that Enter the Dragon was celebrating its 50th anniversary, uh, you know, 50th
Yeah,
anniversary, and that was in the 70s. And from back then, studios didn't really like having an Asian in the lead, which is why Bruce Lee never really got to make Warrior.
yeah.
But coming fast forward 50 years, a story like this, with set in Japan in the Edo period, no less, is connecting with pretty much everybody. What do you think has changed?
First of all, I'm thrilled that everybody around the world is embracing this because as an immigrant myself, where I grew up in Asia, we all know how the world views us, right? And it's hurtful and it's yeah, hurtful is the only word I could come up with it. And we have to hang on to this hurt for such a long time. So to have a show like this come out, it was very cathartic for me to work on it. Because like you, I feel the same. I don't feel fully embraced here in America, and I don't feel fully embraced back in Asia because, oh, you grew up there, but you look like it's like, why can't I just be me? Why do I have to have a label? That doesn't make sense. So I think what changed is I think the pandemic changed us, really.
How
All of
so?
us, I think in being locked away and not being able to come out, we do realize that we human beings still need to connect. And I think for those people, well, COVID does not see color. COVID does not see class. It hit everybody the same way. And I think that was a wonderful way of leveling everybody to the same level. And I think that was what changed everybody. And it was a enough is enough. And now coming back slowly into our normal, those of us that have not been represented can say, hey, this makes no sense. I want to hear stories like this. And then so people like you who live elsewhere, because we were so connected via the internet, because that's the only way we can be connected, say, yeah, I want to see more stories like that. And then you can be heard. And then the studios go, oh yeah, we should make more stories with Asians in it because there's a huge community out there. It's not just America where the Asian community is, this small. It's globally. So I really think that that's what changed.
That's a very good analysis because the way I thought was that people were restricted to the four walls of their room, and everybody was online, and
Yeah,
I guess they got more exposed to foreign content as well that they normally wouldn't
yeah,
have.
yeah.
You know, I think that's probably movies like Parasite kind of started setting the trend back in
Yeah,
the 1990s.
and I hate to say it, BTS.
Oh yeah,
Thank you, BTS.
yeah, yeah. I don't really. I'm not much of a fan, but yeah, you have a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to talk a little bit about the other movies that you worked on. Has there been anything? How do you call it? I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to frame this because again, I'm coming from a live action perspective. You know, when you go on set, you have to deal with so many problems, so many different types of people, and the crew changes from one project to the other. How, if at all, did that build or mold your storytelling and your storyboarding?
In I don't know how it is in Sri Lanka, but I know in the United States, like I get brought on so early that there isn't a crew. It's just me, the director, and the producer. Because the storyboard aspect of it has to come very early. We are the first kind of like post to what the film would look like, right? Because I'm drawing it, and this is the first time you're seeing any visual movements that represent the script. So I work very, very closely with the director and nobody else because nobody else should have any other input into the storyboard except for the director. I'm the person that helps the director's vision come alive. So um, anybody can come talk to me, but I will always say, yeah, you got to talk to the director. It's not me. I don't direct, it's not my movie. It's the director's name that gets on it. Him or her that has all the responsibilities of it. So my, but as a storyboard artist, different working with different directors, you do have to be sort of a chameleon, and you do have to understand what that director's style is, how they like to tell stories. So I have to do a lot of research on that director's previous movies so that I can kind of just understand how they like to tell stories. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah, I think that's kind of like what I was going for, because every single director is different, and you kind of have to uh, cater to their styles.
Yes.
And
Yes.
does it get? how do you call it? Does it get easier with time?
I think so because what should happen with time is you should master what you're doing. And when you're
Mm.
mastered what you're doing, things absolutely get easier, right? The deadlines never get easier, but you get to understand how to problem solve quicker
I
because
think,
you've had
yeah,
more of experience.
true, 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 true. You figure out how to get from point A to point B faster because you got more experience. Yeah, that
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
yeah.
That makes more
So I
sense.
never worry about like, the young hot board artist that's coming on and they do really great. And it's like, great, you still don't have the experience that I have.
I
You
guess
will one
people
day.
like start out feeling quite insecure at the start of their career because of that reason, but then
Absolutely. And I've
eventually,
been there. Yeah, I've been there.
yeah. Um, any transferable skills from different other walks of life? Maybe martial arts, maybe skiing, maybe I don't know. Whatever you've
Well,
done,
for me, my fashion background really did transfer quite a bit because um, in two ways. I learned how to design. When you're making a movie, it's all by design, right? So I understand how to design. I understand the research process, the designing process, and then how to communicate that design and the importance of clarity in clarity in communicating what that design thought process is. On the other hand, in production, when you run a design room, I figured out like, oh, it's just pre-production in a movie. That's how it's done. So I very quickly was able to adapt because I had another skill set for that. And you do want to largely use all the skill set you have. There's always something to learn from whatever skill set you have. Like even like I love cooking. There's a cooking skill set that I can use to my filmmaking, right? Because when you cook, you should prep all the ingredients first. You can't cook and go, oh, I need to go do this and I need to measure this, then that's burning. Pre-measure everything, pre-cut everything, pre-know what you're going to do first before you start cooking. And that's pre-production in live in your films or animation, right? Everything, even parenting, right? The parenting skill comes so necessary when you run a crew. You have to like be able to see like when a crew member is hurting or when a like you know what, you're just hungry, right? Let's go get lunch, let's talk about it after lunch.
I love this. I love how you said that your job was pretty much about, being like the mom of the whole group, and then you're bringing skills from your own family here. It's it's
there,
it's really amazing.
there's such a human impact when you're running a crew. It's all people, right? So I like to see myself as a mom on a crew because part of it is I need you to turn this in, but if you're having issues with it, let's sit down and let's talk about where I can support you, right? Because that's what a mom does. I need you to do something. You can't. Let's talk about why you can't. And if it's BS, I will call you out on it.
Fantastic. But along those lines, something I want to mention is I've noticed this in women that they have this. It's a no-brainer. They have the whole nurturing aspect. It comes biologically, and they bring it to literally whatever they do. So I've always wanted, even on my sets, we need to have girls on set. We need to have female filmmakers. So it's something
Yes,
we try to balance out as much as we can. And talk to me a little bit about how that's changing over there in Hollywood.
I do think it's changing quite a bit. But I think for women themselves, I think what's hard for me is how to manage myself and what are the expectations because we women have not been in this leadership role for long enough time to know how how we're being perceived, right? So if I'm too hard on someone, am I still a bitch? Whereas for a man, he's just doing his job, you know? So I don't want to be seen as a bitch, but I also need to put pressure on where pressure needs to be. But how do you balance that? How do you balance like how a man does it and how should we do it? It's just I think it's like what I said in it's experience. We women don't have enough experience collectively in this role to know how we should be behaving or representing ourselves in a way that the male in this industry can respect, embrace, and support us. Because we're all still trying to figure that out, right? So some women are too hard, some women are not hard enough. We're still trying to figure this out. Did you see Barbie?
I did. Really
You,
enjoyed it.
right. And you know that scene where America Ferrera was doing that whole monologue about like, I don't know, and every day this is the stuff that's going in my head. And I was like in tears because that's exactly what what goes through my head every single day at work. Oh, is that too much pressure? Oh, it's not enough pressure. Oh, is there going to be, and it's like I have to play 10 different roles at all times. Where I think men just have to play 3. So yes, absolutely, we should have more female presence in all aspects of filmmaking because that's how Mother Nature wanted it. She wanted a balance. And so when it's a set that's too male dominant, you guys are going to go way off and make bad decisions, you know?
I've seen it happen. I've seen it
Right?
happen. I've experienced it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there was this short film that we did a little while ago. So the story was again written by us guys, but it was about a woman who was going through domestic abuse. And the way that we ended this story was not in any positive light. And I showed it to my girlfriend. She was like, "The whole thing's good, but this is not what we want to see happen at the end, yo." And that was all we needed to kind of like, oh yeah, she's actually right, and we went ahead
Yeah.
and changed
Mm.
the ending.
Yeah. Perspective is so important, right?
1,000%, thousand
Yeah.
percent. So in a way, I think you guys are kind of the way you are functioning right now, figuring things out. You are pioneering, I guess, what probably might be how do you call it? Pioneering the decisions that will shape an entire generation of female filmmakers coming.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of responsibility, but thank you very much. I'm just hoping, look, all I want to do for this Blue Eye Samurai was for people in the margins to feel seen and heard, and then to inspire other artists to tell their own stories, and then to inspire artists to keep creating. These were my only hopes and asks from Blue Eye Samurai. Oh, and like maybe people want to do more shows like this, you know?
I would definitely vouch for more shows like that. I mean, you said you guys used 3D Studio Max to do the project, but at the same time, it had this 2D, 2.5D
Yeah.
look. Was it any part inspired by Into the Spider-Verse? The Spider-Verse
No,
films did that? No,
no,
this was
because
wanted from the very beginning itself.
yeah, this is what I wanted from the very beginning because I did not want this show to look game-like. And because we drew so much inspiration from Japanese art, which is flat, right, which is 2D. So I wanted this to still have a traditional 2D look, even down to the line quality. If you look at the line quality, it looks like a very 2H pencil, you know. Um, I wanted I wanted the show to look like a moving painting
It's
because
a yeah.
I wanted this to be art.
I really love how you guys included the cultural art elements such as the bunraku
Hmm.
puppet. That was
Well,
amazing.
as a little girl, I used to watch the Boomraku puppets, and when it came down to designing our characters, I just realized, oh, because Bunraku Puppet, I don't know if you've ever seen it, even on video, but it has a very haunting quality to it, and that was kind of like the spirit that I wanted to bring onto to the show. So then it just made sense to design the characters long like the Bunraku puppets, because these puppets are like 3 feet tall and their necks are really long. um, and so once that idea solidified for me, then it was about finding that line quality. And one of my favorite anime is Tikan Concrete. I love the line quality of that anime, so we just took it from that anime.
Integrating Japanese culture with a storyline that mass audiences could connect to. Now we've seen the Hollywood movies doing this thing where it's like, oh, okay, this is America. There's other types of stories that these are the kind of American heroes that you guys have. But at the same time, that's just American. But you guys kind of married both of those together, including elements from the East. How do you kind of find that balance? Because coming from an Asian country ourselves, this is something that we've been wondering. I mean, the Indians are doing it really well with Bollywood, but uh, countries where cultures like Sri Lanka, it's not really represented in film in the international scale. How any advice on how we could kind of go about and start integrating what we have with the
Yeah,
West, merging that 50-50 or whatever.
yeah, I think so. To address your first question, which was how do we find that integration? I think for me it's easy because I'm half too in terms of cultural. I'm full Chinese, but I was raised half there and half here, and I still speak fluently. So it was just trying to find the truth in every scene and what the characters are going through of how I felt and translating that, right? Um, to what you're saying about how do you guys do it as a Sri Lankan culture, I think every culture has something that you guys embrace, right? Find what you embrace and use that as kind of your beacon of what that story needs to be. Other people will resonate with it because we're all human beings. We all want the same things, right? So that's the part, that's the aspect that will connect you to the Western audience. Like Mizu, her self-hatred, knowing where that came from, that reached out to you. You're not Japanese, but you understood it because that's sort of a global, that's a global feeling, right?
Yeah,
But what is it in your culture that sets you different, that says Sri Lankan? What is your philosophy that sets you apart? Is it the art? Is it the food? Is it the, you know, right? That becomes the world.
it's clear. It's clear. Yeah, like, looking at how they did Black Panther with African culture, marrying it with Western elements. It is what every culture specifically embraces as their own, but the underlying human quality, it's universal. The human needs. That's what you
Yeah.
are
And
saying.
and
Yeah.
the thing is, don't think, oh, the Sri Lankan culture, people in the West don't know it. How do we make it so that it's more accessible for them or it's more easier to understand? Don't do that. Don't do that. Embrace what your culture, because you don't need to. That's when you actually water everything down and then you go, oh, now it tastes like Diet Coke because it's not really Coke. Yeah.
Yeah, very good point there. Thank you for those nuggets, because it's something I've been thinking about quite a lot the
Good.
past few months. And Blue Eye Samurai kind of came as a, oh, here we go, we've done it perfectly. So I was like, I really, really need to talk to the people behind this.
Good. Well, I wouldn't say it was easy, but I think for me, the philosophy was very clear already because, I'm older, so I had more time to think about these things. And then the opportunity landed, and I said, this is exactly what I want to do and how I want to do it. And I got so much support from the studio and from the showrunners that uh, that's why I'm saying don't try to change it and water it down. And I think because we were not asked to water down, that's why we were successful. It had a very, it had a voice, a strong voice, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why you don't water things down.
No man, understood. What's next? Not just for Mizu, but for Jane Wu.
A lot of sleep, I hope.
I was
Um,
kind of hoping you'd say stuffing yourself with so much food, gaining a little bit of weight during the holidays, and then moving on to
yes,
cutting it off.
yes, there will be a lot of home aspect things because I have not been able to really focus on my home and my family for the last 4 years. So looking forward to just spending time with my family, uh, researching some new recipes. I bake quite a bit at home. I love baking bread, so more bread baking. In fact, I have another loaf that's proofing right now. Um, I've got a lot of remodeling to do in my house, so remodeling my house. But I'm looking forward to really hearing from more people like you from other cultures and other countries that have found a connection with Blue Eye Samurai. And that's why, I'm delighted to talk to you because it gives me a feedback from other people to know what worked.
Most definitely. If you were to sum up your entire career with probably one statement about what everything that you've learned, what would that be?
Hmm. I think it would be flexibility.
Flexibility.
Yes. Be
Care to elaborate?
flexible. Yeah. In Chinese, we have a saying that if you don't bend like the bamboo, you will snap, right?
Yeah, I've heard that.
So it's just the flexibility of knowing that you're going to be at a certain place at a certain time because that's what the universe has plans for you, and be flexible about it, right? Uh, take that opportunity. Don't say, I have to do this and I want to do this, and no matter what, that's when you're gonna snap because it may not happen at the right time, at the right place, in the way you want it. So having the flexibility to know when certain opportunities are coming up that may not be the way you designed it or the way you wish for it, right? Having the flexibility for your career to move into other places. And so when people say, "Oh, Jane, you've made it," I never felt like I've made it because my I think my path is still ongoing. Maybe in 2 years I may not be doing this anymore. I may open up a bakery. I'm okay with that. I'm flexible with it because your life can't be that straight all the time, right? The path is slightly winding. So yeah, my career is flexible.
I'm gonna just add a little bit to that and say that's pretty much what be water kind of
Yes,
means.
absolutely. Be like water,
Yeah,
flow, right? You're absolutely
yeah.
right. Good point. Yeah.
And if you do decide to open that bakery, I'll be waiting in next time I come to LA.
Well, you're welcome to LA anytime, anytime, even before the bakery too.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you so much for this enlightening conversation about Blue Eye Samurai, about animation, and everything in between. Until next time, this is Jankit.
Thank you so much for having me. Really honored.